ce qui détruit la valeur de notre monnaie. Donc, il a pu planifier.
Should I ask if you start up my YouTube channel?
Hello? 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 Can you guys hear me? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Pierre Poilievre in the house. In the house. Yes.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Ali et Omar. I'm going to say just a few words in French before we get started with my English remarks. Je suis très, très heureux d'être ici avec mon ami Ali. Ali, viens ici. Omar, viens ici. If we fall, then we'll fall together, right? You got my back. Thank you very much. Donc, c'est un grand honneur d'être ici aujourd'hui. Comme vous le savez, ces entrepreneurs-là sont des grands Canadiens qui créent des emplois, qui fournissent des chèques de paie et qui servent la communauté ici dans la ville de London. Et Ali est devenu un de mes amis parce que quand le gouvernement a commencé à imprimer de l'argent, cet homme-là, il savait ce que les experts ne comprenaient pas. Il savait que dans toute l'histoire, quand on imprime de l'argent, ça crée de l'inflation, ce qui détruit la valeur de notre monnaie. Donc, il a pu planifier pour son entreprise, avec son frère Omar, de protéger la valeur de l'argent qu'ils ont gagné durement avec leur travail ici en vendant la meilleure nourriture dans la ville. Hein? Ils ont décidé de mettre leur argent, de le transformer en Bitcoin au début de l'année 2020. Alors, quand vous avez fait cette décision, when you made that decision, quelle était la valeur de Bitcoin en dollars canadiens? What was the value of Bitcoin when you started buying it in early 2020?
Around $10,000.
10 000 quand il a commencé à acheter. Maintenant, c'est à peu près. How much now?
$57,000.
Donc, dans ce même temps-là, la valeur de nos dollars a diminué de plus de 7% à cause de l'inflation. Alors, au lieu de perdre la valeur de la monnaie qu'il avait gagnée, il avait augmenté la valeur. Donc, il a été aussi sage pour éviter l'inflation en choisissant un autre type de monnaie qui lui a permis d'avoir davantage de valeur et de protéger ses employés et ses consommateurs. Alors, le Bitcoin, c'est un système de pouvoir payer sans intermédiaire. C'est un montant qui sera fixe. Il n'y aura jamais plus de 21 millions de Bitcoin, contrairement aux dollars canadiens, dollars américains, d'autres dollars. Donc, ça protège les gens de l'inflation monétaire. Donc, c'est impossible qu'un gouvernement, une banque ou quelqu'un d'autre crée plus pour dévaloriser cette monnaie-là. Donc, aujourd'hui, la nourriture que j'aime le plus, c'est la nourriture de la Moyen-Orient. J'adore le shawarma. Donc, il va me vendre un shawarma. Pour la première fois, il va faire une vente en Bitcoin. Alors, je suis ici pour acheter mon shawarma avec du Bitcoin. On va le faire. On l'appelle le juste-inflation. Et on va répondre avec le gros bon sens. On va combattre l'inflation. Le gouvernement Poilievre va arrêter d'imprimer de l'argent. On va éliminer les déficits. Et on va respecter la valeur de nos dollars et nos monnaies. Et on va permettre les gens la liberté de choisir leur propre monnaie. Donc, achetons le shawarma et on va protéger notre argent. Merci beaucoup, Ali. And now in English. And then Ali is going to teach me how to speak Arabic. But Common sense works in every language, doesn't it?
Amen.
Common sense. C-E-N-T-S. Common sense, right? Absolutely. So listen. Let's talk about how we got to this moment, right? Let's start with money. What is money in the first place, right? Robert Breedlove says money is simply a technology for moving value over space and time. It's one of the unique features of our species in an economic sense. Most species have to eat what they kill right away, lest it be stolen or spoiled. Sure, a camel can carry around a little bit of water in his hump, and a squirrel can squirrel away a meal for another day. But by and large, most species have to consume what they produce on the spot. We, on the other hand, invented this lightweight technology in the form of coins and paper and now digital products that allow us to take today's labor and turn it into tomorrow's reward, to move value seamlessly between people, to allow for the voluntary and free exchange of work for wages, product for payment, and investment for interest. That is the magic of the free enterprise system. You come into Ali's business and you buy, for example, the lentil soup. Get that on this camera.
Oh,
the
it's
lentil
fantastic.
Soup, $3.99, fantastic soup. Here's the genius thing about it for humanity, about the lentil soup. That lentil soup is worth more than $3.99 to the person who buys it. But to the person who sells it, the $3.99 is worth more to him. That's why when you come here and buy from Ali, you will say thank you. And you won't say you're welcome, he will say thank you back. Why? Because in a voluntary transaction, everybody walks away with something worth more to them than they had before. Like if you have an apple and want an orange, and I have an orange and want an apple, we trade, we still just have an apple and orange, but we're both better off because each has something worth more to him than he had before. That's the genius of the market system. It's why we say thank you and thank you in voluntary transactions. Everything the government does, by the way, does through force, not voluntary transactions. Taxes are done mandatorily, right?
Right.
And that's why nobody writes thank you on their tax Because even though it's an exchange of money for, supposedly, for services that we never seem to get, it's all done by force, not by free exchange of voluntary people. We all get ahead in this system by doing something that makes people better off. The socialists love to talk about their compassion. They love to talk about empathy. Empathy is seeing through someone else's eyes, right? There's no one more empathetic than the entrepreneur, because every single day the entrepreneur has to think about what is in the interest of the customer, because no customer will surrender a single penny to an entrepreneur unless it's worth more than they paid for it. They have to be better off, right? The old saying, if you want to sell what John Smith buys, you have to see through John Smith's eyes. That's empathy, and that's what entrepreneurs do every day for a living. But money is the means through which that empathy, that exchange occurs. But what happens when that money comes under attack? For thousands of years, emperors, kings, dictators, whenever they've run out of money because of their selfish, their wars and their personal luxuries and paying off their political friends, they create more cash, which devalues the earnings of the working people, the peasants in the field. They pay for it because their money becomes worth less, right? And so, over time, civilizations have collapsed because they've created all of this cash and caused inflation. Moving forward to the 20th century, we saw hyperinflation, for example, in Germany in the early 20s after World War I, because the government had created so many Deutschmarks. In fact, we had someone who gave me 100 million Deutschmarks yesterday as a gift. You can buy these things for a couple of euro now when you're in Germany, because they created so many of these in order to pay for excessive government spending, that you had to take a wheelbarrow in order to go and buy a loaf of bread. If you went to a bar, you ordered all your beer when you got there at the beginning, because the price would go up by the time the night went on, right? And so after the Second World War, because there was all kinds of inflation that resulted from the cash creation to fund the war, the countries of the world came together and said the only way we're going to rebuild is through hard money, right? To protect the purchasing power of our working class, to bring the young men and women back from the battlefield into the farm fields and the factories. And they did. They created a system of hard money. It was based on the idea that anyone could trade their US dollars, no matter where they were in the world, for 35 US dollars, you could get an ounce of gold from the US Federal Reserve. You had 35 bucks in your pocket, you had an ounce of gold in your pocket. And that was, your money was then as good as gold, right? So you had hard money. And what was the result? That in the period after the Second World War, in Canada, where we kept that hard money policy, we literally tripled the size of our economy between 1946 and around 1971. In America, they did the same thing. They vaporized the war debts. They brought our middle class up. Our veterans were given homes and dignified lives to live, and people could afford to get ahead, to feed their families, and do well. But then, something happened in 1971. What the happened? Well, one thing happened in 1971. The American government started spending out of control on warfare and welfare, right? You had the Vietnam War, you had a massive expansion of the state, and as a result, the Americans started running these huge deficits, and the countries of the world started to say the Americans are never going to be, they don't have enough gold in the vault, so that if we exchange our dollars, we'll ever get that gold ounce we were promised. And so one day, Nixon went out, and Tricky Dick, and he said, we're closing the gold window, breaking the link temporarily with gold, right? And they started printing cash like crazy. And what happened? Inflation started to run rampant. The rich got richer because all their assets inflated in value, but the working people got screwed as their wages devalued. The gap between rich and poor, which had been shrinking, started suddenly to expand. American society started to become more divided. Now, of course, both Republicans and Democrats loved it. Republicans because it inflated Wall Street, and Democrats because it inflated Washington. Big government and big business loved the idea of all of this inflation. It was good for them, right? So Pierre Trudeau was Prime Minister in Canada, and he looked down at all the divisions and all the inflation and all the suffering, and he said, let's have some of that up here. And he started printing money. What happened? They multiplied the money supply, and by early 1980s, we had record inflation of 12% in Canada. 12%, forcing up the cost of living, and then forcing up interest rates to almost 20% to counter that inflation, right? And it took until the mid-1980s when Brian Mulroney at least pegged our dollar to the cost of a basket of goods, and we wrestled inflation down to under 2%. And that stayed in place for about 25 years, and we rebuilt. The middle class was again on the rise. It wasn't perfect. It was not perfect, but it was a lot better than we had in the early 1980s. Fast forward to the present. In 2008, we saw loose financial policies that flushed the banking system with easy cash and caused a massive collapse in the banking system to force people to think twice. People stood up against the wealthy 1% who had benefited. All the bankers who had caused this crisis, along with the bureaucrats and the politicians in Washington, they got off scot-free. So a pseudonymous programmer called Satoshi Nakamoto created a system, a protocol of direct person-to-person, peer-to-peer cash payments with no requirement for a financial intermediary whatsoever. And to get around the easy cash, the easy money policies that had caused these bubbles to inflate and burst, he programmed it so that there could never be more than 21 million of these units of account. And as a result, people started to adopt it as an alternative to the fiat system. Over the last several years, we've seen more and more money printing by politicians, again, south of the border. They started it with quantitative easing, right? Another fancy word for easy money printing. And what did this Trudeau do? He looked down and said, let's have some of that up here, just like his dad. And what have we got? They doubled our housing prices. They forced our young people to live in their parents' basements until their early 30s. They priced single mothers out of nutritious food. They prevented our working people from being able to go for a hunting or fishing trip on the weekend because they can't afford to gas up their car. They call it just inflation, right? Just inflation. And people are standing up and fighting back against that. They want to take back control of their money. So that means that we need to go back to a hard money system that keeps inflation low, stop the unnecessary spending by canceling the $100 billion of extra spending Trudeau wants to pile on. Get rid of wasteful spending like the infrastructure bank, defund the CDC to save $1 billion. But also, this is what I'm here to announce today. We also need to give people the freedom to choose other money. If the government is going to abuse our cash, we should have the right to opt to use other higher quality cash. So one, what does that mean? One, we need to reject a China-style ban on Bitcoin. Because we know that why China's doing it. They want to crack down on the liberties of their people, and they know that when people can control their own money, they can protect their own freedom. So we must keep cryptocurrencies legal. Two, we need to bring together the provinces and the federal government to streamline and simplify the regulations to have consistent rules across provinces so that blockchain companies can operate in Ontario, Quebec, in Alberta, and other provinces at the same time without being confronted with a cobweb of regulations that are preventing people like Ali from expanding his business and using more crypto. And three, we need to have a simple system that allows our people to understand what the tax rules are. Because right now, when you dispose of your Bitcoin in order to buy a product, you have to pay a capital gain. We need to simplify that as well. So that is my plan, to enable Canada to become the blockchain and crypto capital of the world. What this is, yes, you can applaud that if you want. Is now being used for all kinds of other applications. The Ethereum system is allowing people to have smart, self-executing contracts, decentralized finance, so that people can raise money or get insurance without going through big, powerful multinational corporations in order to do it. Non-fungible tokens, which will give you the ability to claim title over things both in the virtual world and in the tangible world without having to spend all your money on legal bills, and to enforce those contracts automatically and organically through a blockchain that is irreversible and uncensorable. All of these innovations should flourish here in Canada, not be shoved off into other parts of the world. We need to get rid of the red tape, simplify the rules, and treat things like if an asset on the blockchain behaves like a security, the law should treat it like a security. If it behaves like a currency, the law should treat it like a currency. If it behaves like a commodity, it should be treated in law as a commodity. It's very simple, folks. Simple rules across time, across asset classes should allow this sector to explode in a free market system that lets everybody voluntarily choose what's best for them. This is the simple purpose of my campaign. The simple purpose is this. I want to make Canada the freest country on earth, to give you back control of your life. That's why I'm here. And what does it mean in this context? I want to give people take control of money away from politicians and bankers and give it back to the people. Where's Matt? Matt, come on over here. Where's my friend Matt? There's Matt. So, listen. Have you got my shawarma ready yet? All right, it's the best. We got the shawarma. Get the shawarma over here, everyone. Omar, come on over here. Don't be shy. You hold this. So this is my shawarma, everyone. All right. There, this is the shawarma. All right. Now, if you could hold the mic for me while I make my purchase. So we're going to buy Bitcoin. All right. You can hold it up. I got to say, we're going to buy this shawarma with this Bitcoin. You ready?
Hold on, I'm just creating your invoice.
He's creating me an invoice right now.
Overcharge him.
Make sure to include the tip in there as well. By the way, what is on this shawarma?
Deliciousness.
Deliciousness. An extra serving of deliciousness is exactly what we need. And by the way, do you use Canadian food when you make your shawarma? Is it Canadian source?
Everything here is local, actually.
Yeah. Local. Made in Canada.
Done. Oh, I got it.
You got it? This is the first payment Ali has accepted in Bitcoin. I want to congratulate you. May it be the first of many, and may you and your wonderful family, Ali, have much success in the days ahead, inshallah. And I want to be here many, many more times for shawarma and falafel and Turkish coffee and all the best stuff you have to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. This is surreal, to be honest. So thank you all for coming, and thank you, Pierre. So what just happened right now is that Pierre Poilievre bought a Tahini's chicken shawarma using the Bitcoin Lightning Network. The transaction was easy, it was instant, with final settlement, and it cost us as a business $0. And it cost Pierre for the transaction 1 Satoshi. That's 0.06 cents. Isn't that incredible? The potential for integrating the Bitcoin network to our financial industry and our energy sector is limitless. You know, by studying history, we can see that civilizations rise because they chose to adopt new technologies. Whether it's aqueducts, the printing press, electricity, steel, the internet, now it's Bitcoin. And we can also learn by studying history that civilizations fall because of inflation and excessive money printing. And seeing you, Pierre, school everyone in Parliament about the definition and meaning of money is proof that you know this better than anyone in our government. Now, we here at Tahini's operate on a Bitcoin standard, which means we operate in dollars and we use our profits to buy Bitcoin. Now, we would love to innovate with the Bitcoin network even more, but unfortunately, leading companies in the space like Strike or Block or many, many others are having a hard time coming in because of all the gatekeepers and red tape surrounding the Bitcoin industry. Now, you, Pierre, talked to a businessman named Tim, and it took him 6 years to build a building.
Get a building permit.
You got a building permit.
It took him about 3 months to build the building. 6 months to get the permit.
And that's construction. That's something we all know. So imagine what it's like with the cutting-edge technology of modern-day finance. Pierre, you are the champion of removing the gatekeepers. So let's...
Open the gates. Open the gates.
Yes, 100%. 100%. So let's remove the red tape on innovation and technology and make Canada the freest and most prosperous nation on this earth. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Get yourself some shawarma and falafel over here.
You all got it. They came early. So guys, one more thing. You need to get a membership for the Conservative Party to vote for Pierre to lead the Conservative Party. Because there's a lot of ass kicking to do, and you know, every single person counts. So we need to support him as much as we can.
Speaking of which, this is the card you need. You take this card. It's got a code on it. You zap that on your phone. Tap, tap, tap. You can't get paid in Bitcoin, but $15 you can become a member. You'll get a ballot in the mail. I need your support. I cannot run for Prime Minister unless I'm leader of the Conservative Party, and I only become leader if you buy a membership and vote for me. I need your support. Don't wait. As Lincoln said, leave nothing for tomorrow that can be done today. Thank you. Before you.